Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, please use the chat feature below. My name is Norville Barrington. I'm the VP of Communications for National Black MBA Metro New York chapter. Before we get started, we're just going to just make sure the audience can hear me. If you can hear me, just please use the chat feature, and we'll be happy to go make sure that you can enjoy this conversation today. All right. Well, thank you so. Okay, thank you so much. My name is Norville Barrington. I want to welcome you to Entrepreneurial Mondays. It's a new platform that we are using, that we are allowed to use to present some of the good things that we're doing for National Black MBA for the Metro New York chapter. Again, my name is Norville Barrington, and I just want to thank you so much for your time. As we work through some technical difficulties here, I just want to give an announcement. National Black MBA is celebrating 50 years of excellence. And as we are broadcasting live doing our new streaming platform, we want to welcome you to some of the program that we have. If you can still hear me, please use the chat feature. Just want to make sure that you can all hear me. Great. Okay, great. All right. We're going to try a couple of things here. Just hang tight with us as we work through this new technology. Again, welcome to Entrepreneurial Mondays. Going to get started in about a couple minutes, and then we'll go ahead and introduce our guest, Gregg Bishop. Give me a couple moments here. Thank you. Okay, great. Just to make sure everyone can hear me, I want to thank everyone again for their patience as we use this new technology. Again, my name is Norville Barrington, the VP of Communications for National Black MBA Metro New York chapter. We want to welcome to Entrepreneurial Mondays. We have an excited program for you today as we're going to talk about the power of business, and more importantly, Black businesses. We know that we're in a current pandemic right now where businesses are suffering across the board. Many locations and many cities are going through the same things that we're going through in New York City. But there's something specific that we want to talk to you today, which is regarding minority businesses, minority Black-owned businesses, specifically Black entrepreneurs, and opportunities for you as an entrepreneur to not only understand your current climate, but what are some of the drivers within Black entrepreneurship and small businesses? What are some of the things that we need to consider, and what the City of New York and many other partners are doing to help address this issue? Before we get into our guest speaker, I want to introduce the president of the Metro New York chapter, Andrew Hamilton, for remarks as we celebrate our 50th anniversary, and welcome you to Entrepreneurial Mondays.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me. Another exciting digital series. Thanks again, Norville and his team, putting it together. And we're here on Monday to discuss small business, more specifically in New York. And we're very lucky to have the Commissioner Bishop, to give his insights, remarks, and other information that will help our small business community. When we begin this year, we had no idea we were going to go into another virtual atmosphere. But again, through being resilient, being open to new ideas, and also with the power of innovation, here we are. So without further ado, I'll bring in, we'll start the series, and hopefully you'll have a great opportunity to hear what we have to say, learn some insights, to hear from each other, and looking forward to it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And before we get into our discussion here, we welcome you to use the chat feature. For those of you who are streaming through Facebook and through YouTube, please feel free to use the chat feature. We're going to get to some of the questions that you have available here. In addition to that, if there's some integral parts of the conversation that you want to go into, please feel free to email us at bizdevelopment@nyblackmba.org. Now, let's get into our discussion today. Now, we have a lot of things to discuss, and there's a lot of changes that have happened over the last 24 hours, specifically within the last 12 hours. We have a partner with the National Black MBA Metro New York chapter has partnered with the New York City Small Business Services for some time now. And what we've done is try to ensure that businesses such as yourself are getting the resources that you need. And in order to ensure that that's happening, we relied on many facts, many figures, but a couple of things that kind of stand out here. From a big picture perspective, There are about 30 million small businesses across the United States. They represent about 64% of jobs that are created in the United States. And in terms of what they represent, about 90% represent small and medium-sized businesses. However, how much of that is African Americans or minority groups? One of the things I want to highlight here before we introduce our guest is the Black Tax. Black Tax is written by Sean Rochester, and Sean has been able to quantify some of the historical changes that we've had since slavery in terms of the impact to small businesses and other economic factors that affect the Black community. And one of the things I want to highlight here is that since this time of slavery, about 400 years, African Americans only still represent 2% of wealth. Now, why is that? Now, the guest that I'm going to bring up here represents one of the driving forces, not only for African Americans, but for all New Yorkers, and that's Gregg Bishop. So before we actually scheduled this opportunity to connect with Gregg was actually the commissioner of New York City Boston Small Business Services. He worked to really make sure that all businesses, from a job creation, making businesses stronger, and making sure that businesses and communities are thriving across the 5 boroughs. He actually started his appointment about 2015, overseeing the opening of some great initiatives such as Workforce One, also a number of NYBLACKMBA certifications from a government perspective, and also make sure that from a business perspective that women and immigrant entrepreneurs were thriving in this community. Now, he was born in Grenada, and he's raised in East Flatbush. And before becoming the commissioner of Small Business Services, he actually served as a deputy commissioner for about 3 years, between 2012 and 2015. He began his career at the age of 2018. So for those of you who are on this call, those of you who are listening here, the progression in terms of his professionalism has been shown as he's been able to work through the ranks in order to get to the point that he's at now. He also focuses on making sure that businesses start, operate, and grow successfully. He also was assistant commissioner focusing on economic development and financial opportunities within the SPS. And he actually started his career long before he got into government at NJ Power. He was also the senior director there, also worked as director of web operations. He serves as the vice president of technical operations at The Street. TheStreet.com. And one fun fact about Gregg, for those of you who are listening, he actually started his actual career started at Vibe magazine, and helped the infrastructure in Vibe and making sure that they set up the infrastructure for e-commerce and pioneer web at Vibe. So I just want to call out that. He's also received his master's degree in integrated marketing and management communications from Florida State University. Graduated magna cum laude and also at Florida A&M, which for those of you who are HBCU grads, that's a big deal. So all the HBCU grads who are on this call and watching, he's one of you. Also graduate of the Harvard Kennedy School of Senior Executives. Goes on and on and on. And one thing I want to say about him, he is a man of honor. He's done a lot in the community. He's also part of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And without further ado, I want to introduce Gregg to our conversation. Gregg, how are you doing today?
How you doing, Norville? Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Great. So now, when we started this conversation, we started this conversation some time ago, came into your office, and we wanted to talk about what we can do to impact small businesses and things that we've noticed from your career perspective. You've seen a lot, so kind of walk us through some of the transitions you've had in your career, and how did Gregg Bishop become Gregg Bishop?
Wow. Well, at first I have to give all honor to God who leads my life, right? I think, when you talk about, all the jobs I've had, it's because I've been just tremendously blessed. But I've also had mentors in my life who, helped me and created opportunities. I will say that, the transition from, the private sector to government, I had a pit stop in the nonprofit sector. And that sort of like transcended, and everything was a desire to help, right, and to give back to the community, because I knew that there were communities that were being left out of a number of things, whether it's workforce, and then when I went to government economic development. So I became, this government person simply because I have a passion to give back.
Now, with that being said, with that heart, now, what are some of the accomplishments that you've had? And we'll get into some of the announcements that happened early today. But what are some of the things that you, over your time as a commissioner, that you're proud of? And what are some of the things that, that you've learned in this time frame?
Yeah, so, there's a number of things. I would say that when I started off at Small Business Services, it was really to help minority and women-owned businesses. And the genesis of that was I was working in a nonprofit sector, knew that I needed to figure out a way to help young people. I call them at promise. These are 18 to 24-year-olds who did not have the traditional path to college or couldn't even afford college. And because I was a college dropout. So, one of the things when you read somebody's resume, you don't really understand. I always use the sort of analogy of an iceberg. You only see the top of it, right? But you don't see the bottom, and you don't see all the stuff that they went through. But yeah, I dropped out of college, but for the grace of God, I was passionate. I was a geek, and taught myself how to code, and was able to turn that into a really solid career in technology. Lesson there: if you have a skill that's in demand, you can build a good career. And so when I graduated from college, when I went back to school, and when I graduated, I went into workforce because I knew there were like Gregg Bishops all around the city who had the skill or the potential and just needed like the actual education. So I started in workforce and realized that, wait a minute, I need to help these young people find jobs. And what's important is, we will talk about this, but our businesses, our small businesses, are the ones that will create those opportunities, especially our Black and minority women-owned businesses. They are the ones that's hiring within those communities. So when the opportunity came for me to start at Small Business Services to help minority and women-owned businesses win city contracts, then it clicked that this is a way on a macro level to help small businesses not only win city contracts, but then hire within the communities and hire the same young people that I was trying to find jobs. So I think helping and strategizing with the different agencies to increase the utilization of MWBEs is something that I'm very proud of. And this was during the Bloomberg administration, so this was very, very early on. Since then, the Office of MWBE was created under the de Blasio administration. And, we went from like 8% to now like almost 30%. So that is a tremendous, success there. We've been able to certify over 9,000 firms. When I started, we only had 700. We've been able to employ almost 30,000 New Yorkers every year. And that is life-changing. We've been able to do a lot of things. We've stood up the largest nurse residency program. We now have a tech and residency program where young people are being taught the newest, technical skills like Python, et cetera, to really get them the jobs that they're looking for. And our average wage coming out of our training programs is $50,000 a year. So there's a number of things. I had a focus on women entrepreneurs. Had a focus, and we launched a number of mentorship programs. We launched a number of, access to capital programs. Even access to capital. Last year, we had a record year connecting businesses to over $76 million. So there's a lot at the agency that I'm proud of. A lot of work that we've done over the time that I've been there. I could go on and on, but the most important thing is that I created a strategy in terms of focused on equity of opportunity and looking at everything that we do through an equitable lens and figure out how do we get to communities that most need that information. So that is one of the things that I'm most proud of.
So now, as we look at the lack in certain areas, walk us through not only the vision, but what the resources that went into looking at some of the opportunities to look at the state of entrepreneurship in NYC.
Yeah, so I think so. I would say that we could not do it alone. You need partners. So the National Black MBA, for example, coming to the table and helping us reach specific audiences. We have a network of over 300 organizations that we work with. Having city resources, so the mayor made a commitment to invest in neighborhoods, so we were able to, pivot some of our programs to get our local organizations and build a capacity of our local organizations, either through direct funding or even through, additional staff. Being able to work with the private sector. So the private philanthropic sector, we've been able to, test and pilot a lot of different programs. For example, we work closely with NYCHA. We first started with a program called Food Business Pathways to help individuals learn how to run their own restaurant. That pivoted into childcare because we understood childcare was an issue. Then that morphed into a catering business pathway. So folks that wanted to start a restaurant and realized the overhead of a restaurant was way too much, but they could actually do catering. And all that was a result of investment from a private funder from the very beginning. So, there's this job and the work that we do requires collaboration all across the city, not only from the private sector, but the nonprofit sector. And then one of the things I've been very much focused on is really helping connect the different communities through the use of media, because information is key, information is power. And that's one of the things that I think our community, we struggle with, which is getting access. And I heard this when we launched our Black Entrepreneurship Initiative, access to the decision makers, access to the right information, access to capital. Those are the things that, I heard. And so the getting access to information was very important to me. And so we tried, different means of getting the word out. Whether it's being on a national syndicated, radio show or, sponsoring different events. That was the strategy that we took to really get the word out there.
So now education is important. I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs, potential entrepreneurs, small business owners who are on this call. So let's ground the state of Black entrepreneurship. Where are we from a nation perspective before COVID, and what are we now currently? What is the state of entrepreneurship? I want to be an entrepreneur. What is really going on in this realm?
Yeah. So, and I don't know, my video is like freezing a little bit, but and it caught one of my expressions. But the audio it sounds fine. I would say that the state of Black entrepreneurship at the very beginning, and Sean Rochester, The Black Tax is a great book that actually helps you understand why we are where we are. He's a brother of mine, also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and I would encourage everyone to actually get that book because it's important to understand the history. And we one of the reasons why we launched our Black Entrepreneurship Initiative was because nationwide Black entrepreneurship is not in a good state, for a number of reasons. Access to capital, again, access to decision makers, access to mentors, access to the ability to have someone that can help you think through. And, so there's in New York City alone, we saw that, Black individuals make up about 20% of our population, but only own 2% of our businesses. And one of the striking things that we found is that, when you ask someone, a Black individual, if they want to start a business, a resounding, I think it was over 50% want to start.
Right.
So it's not for a lack of like desire or hard work. It's just the systemic challenges that Sean talks about in his book that has prevented us from being successful. So when you look at the lost, and you think about like the Rockefeller, or you think about any of the billionaires around, that's generational wealth. And when you talk about generational wealth for communities, the Black community, you're talking about wealth that was robbed from us, right? Either through slavery, indentured servitude, Jim Crow, redlining. I could go on and on and on and on. In everything that we have attempted to build wealth that either was stolen from us or we were denied. So therefore, we're starting, 3 or 4 or 5, sometimes even 10 steps back from other communities who are also want to be entrepreneurs. So the goal really is to figure out how to eliminate those systemic, racism and address them. So you have to figure out what are some of the challenges in the financial markets? What are some of the challenges just in getting real estate, in the real estate industry? What are some of the challenges in technology? I'm bringing up all these things because it's literally, when you think about why do we not have more Black engineers? Well, let's go back to our education system, right? And the fact that in Black communities, we are saddled with the poorest performing schools. This pandemic has exposed what I would say is, we talk about the underlying conditions, and, the Black community has been impacted greatly than other communities. Well, I think it's Black and Latino that's been impacted.
Right.
But the underlying conditions, it's not hypertension, it's not diabetes, it's racism, right? Because all those things are a result of the fact that we were just denied the resources that we needed in our communities.
So, what are some of the four areas that that for entrepreneurs are a huge gap, and what have you done as Coach? I know you've done some great things. What are some of the things that you have done to address maybe some of those four things?
So, in terms of, I would say like access to capital is number one. And what we have done in general is really figure out a way to find capital for individuals who a traditional bank may not actually consider a customer. We have worked with a group of lenders called Community Development Financial Institutions. And that is, for some may be the first time they've heard of that term. But those are lenders. They provide a lot of technical assistance to help individuals get the capital that they need. And not only just get the capital, but get the right amount of capital, because a lot of times entrepreneurs are undercapitalized when they're about to start their venture. CDFIs, they look beyond the credit score. So one of the things we found out during our listening sessions for BNYC, student loan debt has a tremendous impact in our ability to actually go out and start a business. And when you look at the fact that, especially for Black women, they have the highest level of student loan debt, and they make the least in terms of income, right? So you have a world where those two forces put you in a position where you're not necessarily want to take a risk to actually go out and start a business because you're too concerned about defaulting on that loan, et cetera, and you're sort of, you want to focus on your career. So we've been focused on access to capital. There definitely needs to be more done there, especially to address some of the underlying issues that we saw. Workforce and access to a workforce, and some of that is having the right skills. So you, as an entrepreneur, having the right skill sets to understand not only how to manage your business, but then also finding the right people to help you run your business. Right. One of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face is that I am afraid to hire because that is an additional cost. But for example, if you want to diversify your revenue stream and you want to consider government contracting, Well, you can't run your business and also bid on contracts, right? Because it will drain you, right? You need someone just solely focused on the government side. You're focused on running your business. And then that person finds the contracts, they respond, et cetera. And they're the ones that's responsible for, bidding. That strategy works, but that person costs money, whether it's $50,000 or $60,000. So workforce is one. Mentorship. Many of us come from communities where, my mom was a nurse. My grandmother was, she was barely made it out of high school. She was a vendor. So she knew a little bit about business. But it wasn't like if I wanted to start a business, I had someone in the family where I could say, hey, I want to do this. Can you help me? Or can you connect me to X? Or can you connect me to Y? Other communities have that. And they have the ability to, not only provide the guidance to help you avoid the first mistake, but then also continue to be there to mentor you as you grow your business.
Right.
And then the last thing I would say is just access to each other and networking. And that's where you guys come in, having these type of conversations, and I've been to a number of your social gatherings and your networking events. Those are important. Why? Because I can meet someone who can, I'm doing X, you're doing Y, but guess what? There's an opportunity that requires X and Y. So I could partner with each other and literally become, a force to actually bid on that contract. But the only way we will know about each other is if we meet each other. So networking is so important. So those are, I would say, the four things that really are some of the barriers. But definitely there's different programs that we have that have touched around the peripheral of those things. We will continue to, COVID really changed the way the agency operates. We've been really focused on COVID-19. So we will be, some of the work that we wanted to do for Black entrepreneurs, we will do that just as soon as we get, the COVID-19 response completed. But more to come on that.
So definitely more to come on that. Now, one of the things that you've done, and this was actually last fall, you launched Black Entrepreneurs NYC to help address the specific need within our community. Now, walk us through what you gathered so far. Now, I know that you can't release all the information. I know there's a lot of things that you're still going through. What are some things that excited people about this program, and what things should the audience look out for possibly in the future?
Yeah, so the thing about COVID is that it has exposed a lot of the, I would say, the systemic racism in our financial markets. So we have, and I know we'll talk about the changes today, but the agency has a blueprint in terms of how to respond. And literally, some of the work that needs to be done is galvanize the private sector to contribute dollars to make that happen. So access to capital was definitely number one. And, we will, figure out, and we've done this before for, women entrepreneurs, et cetera. So, working on a program that, similar to like the federal government response to help businesses recover from COVID, there will be some type of, capital program. Mentorship came up as a big thing. And I know there's a lot of bigger businesses now that are looking to help small businesses recover. So I think that is going to be something that you'll see.
Let me ask you about the mentorship piece, and it kind of tails into industry. So there's some misconceptions in terms of what our people are capable of doing. There's also some misconceptions about some opportunities in terms of industries. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about mentorship, let us in terms of what type of mentorship, what areas were people really keen on that maybe didn't have an opportunity getting to?
Yeah, listen, I as I started by saying, I am not where I am today because I had not because of my own actions, but because God has put mentors in my life to help me make important decisions. When it was time to go back to school, one of my mentors, Keith Quingscales, who was the president of Vibe at the time, but when I spoke to him, he was like doing his own thing and running his own magazine. He graduated from Harvard University with his MBA. So of course I went to him and said, hey, you need to get me to Harvard. And he said, nah, you don't want to go to Boston. You want to go to Tallahassee. And he said, Tallahassee will do you right. So he gave me, he showed me the path. Think about that when you're running a business, right? When do you make that critical decision of hiring your first employee? How much capital do you need based on your business plan to properly execute it? When do you actually go out to seek angel investors, venture capitalists, right? How do you make that pitch? And when you're going out, who are you going out to, right? Those are the type of mentorship that I'm talking about, right? I'm not talking about, and sometimes I think, and I saw it with the MW program where people feel that if you're certified as a minority woman-owned business, it's a stigma, it's something negative, right? Mentorship shouldn't be seen as that. Actually, it should be seen as, I do not want to make the same mistake that you made, right? So help me get beyond where you went. And there are people, because I am one of them, and I know it, where you just want to help, and especially if it's your people, right? If it's another person of color, the struggles that they have overcome, so you just want to be there to help. So that's the type of mentorship that I'm talking about, and we have a number of individuals who have built multi-million-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar companies. We have individuals who sit on boards, who are probably the only person of color and understand like what we need and what entrepreneurs need to become successful, that want to volunteer. So if you can imagine almost like a volunteer corps of individuals, Black entrepreneurs who want to help other Black entrepreneurs. I've seen this in my time as commissioner in other communities, and that is something that we need to have, I think, in our community. The ability to tap into that network and get the knowledge to then, make the right decisions.
So now that, if you laid the great foundation, you've been there for several years, and you've done some great work, talk to us about what's coming up the pipe. Today was a huge announcement, and it really shocked me. Well, I wasn't really shocked, but kind of shocked me because the way it was presented. But now, as of right now, you are no longer the commissioner of New York City Small Business Services. You're actually now the senior advisor of small business for COVID-19 relief. So tell us more about this. First, congratulations.
Right, thank you.
Congratulations. I kind of know. I know what it means. I was just so ecstatic. But talk to us about what that means in terms of funding, in terms of companies, large companies, and what this means for you.
Yep. So and of course, I'm really excited about this opportunity. It's been actually about 12 years I've been at the agency, as you read in my bio. And 5 years as commissioner. The mayor and I had a conversation. As you know, this is an unprecedented time for all our small businesses. What our conversation was about was our communities of color. What was very alarming was in the first round of the PPP, you saw a lot of banks, sort of go to their larger customers. And as I mentioned, a lot of, in New York City, over 70% of our businesses have fewer than 10 employees, which means that a lot of our smaller Black-owned businesses are in that number, which means they may not have a traditional banking relationship because their capital needs are maybe $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And when you have major banks first going to their prime customers and then maybe going to their secondary customers, it just means that Black-owned businesses will get left behind in any type of recovery. So we had a conversation about there's no way in the city we could tolerate that. we have to make sure that we have an equitable recovery in every community. And it's not just Black-owned businesses. It's, immigrant-owned businesses. It's, undocumented and documented. It is also our street vendors. There are different groups who, by no fault of their own, are facing these systemic challenges that are eliminating them from the recovery. In addition to that, the city of New York, the state of New York, we are facing unprecedented times in terms of our budget. As you may have read, the city is facing a $7 billion deficit. The state is about $12 or $13 billion, which means that when I talked about the different programs that we did, support for our small businesses coming strictly from government, that may not be an option. So this role allows me to work with the private sector to get the necessary funding and partnership with the private sector to help our businesses, especially those businesses that have been, left out. But it also allows me to, work with all the different task forces that we've created to ensure the proper reopening. There's a lot of questions, whether you're in the hospitality industry, when does that restaurant open? If you are in the event planning business, event spaces, et cetera, when are we going to have, the ability to have large scale gatherings? And in between that time, we need to figure out what can we do with that workforce? What can we do with that business? How can we help those businesses? So all that requires, someone who understands those communities. And the mayor wanted me to do this. And of course, running an agency is a full-time job. So I've been very blessed that, in not only in getting this role, but I saw his face pop up.
I'm working on getting him on. I'm working on getting back on.
Yeah, he dropped off. My counterpart, and we work together closely with the Office of NYBLACKMBA. So it was a twofer where I was able to step down from the day-to-day operations of running the agency to focus on this important work. And then my brother Janelle Doris, who is coming on soon, has assumed the role as commissioner for small business services. So today was a huge day. And of course, I'm still recovering from that because everyone understands the work at hand, and it is so necessary at this time. And we both understand, we're both immigrants. I'm from Grenada, he's from Guyana. The G's that always get confused. So we understand, how to reach different communities, how to reach the outer boroughs, how to reach, different, whether it's, sectors or have a different sectoral strategy. So I'm looking forward to not only this role, but to seeing all the great things that Janelle will do at the agency as well.
And this kind of segues to the announcement that was made. And I mean, you two. I'm gonna just bring him on here. Jono, can you hear me? Yes. So
wow.
So
two of my favorite people right here, man.
So with technology, you try new things. This is an opportunity to try new things, and our association is trying new things. And the city is not only trying but investing into two of you. Before I introduce you, both of you are great examples not only to our community but to our nation of what African American men, African American professionals can do, not only in government, but how we can lend our resources to help fight a number of the social economic issues that we have, but also to build our neighborhoods and communities up. And Janelle Doris, I want to congratulate you for being named the new Commissioner of Small Business Services. I know we have Gregg on, we're going to kind of do this together, but Janelle, prior to this, was Director of NYBLACKMBA Enterprise, and he was a Senior Director for the Mayor's Office. He has a number of years in professional services. He's also been a senior advisor for our governor for the storm recovery from Sandy. He has worked countless years in many industries. And I mean, his accolades go on and on. He has 2 master's degrees, one from Oral Roberts in Divinity, and one has a master's in public administration. He also is a pastor. He has done many wonderful things. And in this time frame, he's connected many small business owners with MWE certification, educating us on how we can increase our wealth. John Eldoris, welcome to our broadcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you for that amazing intro. But yes, thank you. I'm happy to be here. How are you doing?
We are doing well. Prior to this conversation, prior to this meeting, we had no idea well, maybe Gregg knew. Maybe Gregg knew that this announcement was coming. But wanted to make sure we have you on because I think it's important to set the stage for not only what Gregg is going to be doing from a corporate perspective, understanding what this means for lending and for small businesses and helping connect the dots, but also talk about what you have done in your time in your position as director. What are some of the accomplishments you have done in terms of ensuring that our people of color and pretty much everyone in the city can get access to key information to help grow their businesses?
Well, Norville, thank you for having me on. And I want to really start off by saying congratulations to my friend, Greg Bishop, really a pioneer here. I don't know if you are a small business owner or in this world and you don't know Greg Bishop, then you're not really connected to what's happening in New York City. These are big shoes to fill, literally. And expressing
Size 13.
I appreciate Greg so much for his leadership at the agency. This agency was a critical and is a critical agency as it pertains to our MWBE program. They certify our firms. They also work with the capacity building programs to assist businesses to advance. And it's really my honor to follow in his footsteps and carry on the legacy that he had created there. We certainly worked together for the last 4 years, just about in the administration, working hard for MWBE. So whatever accomplishments we have, we attribute a significant portion of that to his and his team's work, who have been executing on the policies and the various things that we had coming out of the mayor's office. So the mayor set a few years back a goal for 30% utilization for MWBEs. That means 30% of the city's contracting to go to MWBEs who are qualified and are engaged in our certification program. And that means billions of dollars we're talking about here. The mayor also set some real aggressive goals when it comes to just the contracting in general, $25 billion by 2025. And so since we started our program, we have also increased the number of certified firms which Greg's team worked on and did the work for. And they were extremely creative in how we got there. But we met the goal. And it's one of those things we're very excited about. So just a little update on what we were able to do. So right now, I believe there's about 9,800 firms in our program. And then also we have about $14.6 billion in the last 5 years or so, from 2015 to now, that was awarded to MWBEs. And really, we have hit for the first time in history, after 2 consecutive quarters, 30%. And so, that is huge. And we're talking, threefold increase from 8% when we took over in 2015. So what does that mean for small businesses? MWBEs, the city's open for business. We're here to engage you, and looking forward to having you guys at a seat at the table.
Now, your career speaks for itself. You and Gregg has done amazing things. What are some of the things that you personally are looking to drive? Now, a lot of the planning comes with vision. What are some things that you've seen that are eye-opening that you say, I'm looking forward to hitting the ground running and doing this one specific thing?
Yeah, I think I think one of the things that we have to do and realize and really address in a very profound way is that we are no longer living in a normal or what we would consider normal times, and what the mayor said today, is no more business as usual, literally. And so we have to think about innovative ways to solve problems. We have to think about innovative solutions in order to resolve the matters at hand that small businesses face. We have to look deep and think, really strategically about how we're going to address growth, how we're going to address entrepreneurship in general, from the startup stage all the way through to the growth and advancement stage. And so one of the things that we are looking at is what suite of services that we can provide. How do we tweak what we actually do, and how can we sort of become more, an agile agency in where we can address the needs as they arise. And we have a great foundation, I think, right now for the work that Commissioner Bishop was doing over the years and his great team. And now it's our job to build on that and bring the structure into place so that we can really advance small businesses across the city.
And John, now before you go, and Greg, this also goes to you. You guys have a great working relationship. So, what are some of the things that together you're looking to do to help combine efforts, combine forces, especially as COVID is happening, and we're thinking about reopening. Companies, small businesses are thinking about what they're going to do with their workforce. Entrepreneurs are thinking how we're going to go into this new space, in this new world. How are you two going to collaborate with one another?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think part of it is I don't know, I forgot which Jerry Maguire, right? So Janelle is going to say, "Show me the money."
I can't hear Greg.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me? Norville, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, Janelle can't hear me. So I can say all the things. I can say everything about him.
I'm reading your lip right there.
Literally,
my
job is to provide the resources not only for SPS but for all the different agencies. We have a mayor's office of media and entertainment that has nightlife built into there. They are focused on the nightlife industry. We have consumer affairs. There's so many different agencies, EDC. There's so many different agencies that touch small businesses, and being able to funnel private resources for them to be able to provide that assistance is so necessary. The good news is that I know the infrastructure at SBS, so whatever it is, that I work on, I'll be able to, work with Janelle to execute and launch those programs as quickly as possible. But that is how we intend to work together in terms of my job to really galvanize the private sector to be part of this recovery.
And John, I'm not sure if you got what Greg said. Technology is always something that we're trying to battle through, but you pretty much kind of highlight from a public sector perspective, understanding SPS and understanding how the agency works. The focus is to leverage some of those resources externally, be able to build out some of the programs, some of the new programs that you're going to be working on, but also add the flavor. Ultimately, I'm paraphrasing here. Add some of the new innovations and thoughts that you're going to come together with in order to propel some of the opportunities that we have within SPS.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Greg and I have worked over the years together, as I mentioned before. I'm really looking forward to the challenge ahead. I think his great mind and great reach and, his ability to bring folks together, but also to motivate different groups and bring them to the table. I think, it's really evident in recently in some of the work he's done to help us really bring some new light to the challenges in small businesses in the PPP program, which is the federal Paycheck Protection Program, and the challenges that small businesses were having, and the challenges of that program and how it was not really serving the community that we needed to serve. And so Gregg led the charge for the city with our federal supporters and partners to get the changes in that particular bill, the new one that came out, that added, for instance, CDFIs or minority lending institutions or community banks who actually engage Black businesses and engage MWBEs and engage small businesses at a larger scale. I mean, that was Gregg's work. And so, he has the ability to do that. And we were going to see that sort of multiplied in this effort. So as he goes out there and be a champion for small businesses, we are here back at the city. We are going to continue with our daily operations. We're going to improve efficiencies. We're going to bring new programming, and we're going to do what we can to make sure that small businesses can come back and be stronger and thrive. It will be new. It may be different, but they will have an opportunity to thrive in our new, this sort of new COVID world, right? That we're all just hit with.
Well, John Eldoris, new commissioner of NYC Small Business Services, I want to congratulate you again. Thank you so much. We look forward to connecting with you, but congratulations. And we look forward to the great work that you're going to do.
Thank you so much. And Gregg, thank you, sir. Looking forward to it.
All right. Take care.
And Gregg, so now that we have the inside-outside approach, I'm looking at it like a triangle offense. Everyone has been looking at The Last Dance. You two are going to be running this offense that will allow entrepreneurs to be successful. What are some things? What are 3 reasons why African Americans should go into entrepreneurship?
I think the first reason is the best way to control. What better way to control your destiny when you have total control of all aspects of your life? I think as you think through running a business, it is not easy. That's for sure. But you have a lot of control. You decide when you're going to go on vacation. You decide when you're going to do a number of things. You decide whether you want to sell that business or whether you want to hold on to that business. Whether you want to be, a 2-person shop or a 200-person shop. So that's number one, is just having that control. I think number 2 is, looking at how you can impact your community. So, I am one that I like to give of myself. As an entrepreneur, you have the ability to influence not only your community by hiring, by, providing much needed services and addressing some of the ills that the community has. But as a business owner, you have a voice. It's a different type of voice than you have as just an ordinary citizen. So, you have the ability to shape, how capital gets to other businesses, et cetera. So, that is certainly one other reason. And then, I would say that the last one is more almost like a selfish reason. And when I talk about, the freedom and number 1, but it's also like, you get to generate wealth. A lot of different communities, the reason why individuals have the ability to do the things they do is because entrepreneurship runs throughout the family. So you have the ability, as a business owner, there's certain things you can do that you can't do as an employee. In terms of being able to generate wealth, being able to make investments, et cetera. So those are, the 3 reasons I would say that, you should go into business. But notice I did not put wealth creation as number 1, because if you go into business just to make money, you're not going to enjoy it. You have to follow your passion, and, part of that freedom, part of that, being able to give back to the community creates that dynamic where then as you are passionate about that work, you end up generating that wealth. But making money should not be your primary objective as to why you're going into business, because you're going to be so obsessed with that that I think you're going to end up making some bad decisions. Obviously, you're not going into business to be a charity. And making money is on the list, but it shouldn't be your number 1 reason.
Well, Gregg, we want to thank you so much. We're up against our time here. We want to first congratulate you for the work that you have done, work that you're going to continue to do, and kind of working through these technical issues that we have here. But we're excited about the work that's going to come forth, and we look forward to continue to partner with you as National Black MBA Entrepreneurial Chapter, one of the largest chapters in our association. especially when it comes to slide diversity, opportunities for great wealth creation, and job opportunities as well. So we want to thank you very much for this time.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. And of course, continue doing the work that you're doing in providing much necessary information and resources to all our Black entrepreneurs out there. And looking forward to working with you, continuing the relationship, no matter where I end up. So now I'm over at City Hall, so it's even more important for us to have these conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gregg.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, that was Gregg Bishop, now the senior advisor of New York City small business COVID recovery. Between him and Janelle in their new positions, there have been a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs to only expand their opportunities for growth within their companies, but for new entrepreneurs to go ahead and be able to launch their own businesses. I'm going to add Andrew Hamilton here, some closing remarks. Now, Andrew, this was an interesting conversation, and what are some of the takeaways that you have for our audience?
A lot of opportunity. I think the two gentlemen explained a lot of opportunity here in New York, and their affinity and affection to make sure that disadvantaged areas get their fair share in the market. But that's it's a two-way street. So we're going to make sure, as us as a community, really demand and strive for these opportunities for ourselves, and really just take advantage of the opportunity. I know it was a tough time, tough market. I know that a lot of people are going through a lot of challenging issues and things of the nature. But I think striving ahead and pushing ahead and participating with us, Metro New York chapter of Black MBAs, is a great way to hopefully be a catalyst for your next business venture. And also our digital series that we're ramping up very well now, that we are pushing ahead, that if you're interested in real estate, interested in working out, interested in career development, interested in this Entrepreneurial Mondays, and there's more coming in the pipeline, and I can't forget community conversations with Mr. Santias. We are here, and more importantly, that I'll say selfish plug that our financial literacy series will be back again in a couple of weeks. So
yes,
we are. Yeah, so we are good. We are rocking, and we are in business. Make sure we always say that we are in business. So very fortunate for that. So with that end, I'd like to say have a good evening, everyone, and hope to see you again sometime in the digital space. And take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. On behalf of National Black MBA Metro New York chapter, my name is Norville Barrington. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at BUS development at NYBLACKMBA.org. You can also visit our website at www.nyblackmba.org. I want to thank you so much, and our sponsors here for this great studio and for providing us the content that's needed. Thank you so much. My name is Norville Barrington from bccelerator and from National Black MBA Metro New York chapter. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.